All right, thanks, guys. We are currently 2-0 in our last two underdog tier membership plays on patreon.com/Brock Page. And the good news is this: we have another underdog tier package play that's going off today. And for those who don't know, my Patreon page is a website that I operate that gives you daily premium sports picks beginning at just $1.99 through the end of the month. Now, we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit more in just a little bit, but before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a look at some international Setka Cup table tennis action. And we're going to go ahead and start with Vitaly Sazhnev taking on Rod Pervelli, and that's going to be a 1:35 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, Rod's playing some very good table tennis right now, winning his last two straight and 5 out of his last 6 matches. He's beaten the likes of Moroz, Kuzio, and Sazhnev during that span. Matter of fact, he beat Vitaly Sazhnev in convincing fashion 3-1 in their last head-to-head meeting. And speaking of Vitaly, he's really struggled recently on his side of things, losing his last 3 straight and dropping 4 out of his last 5, including a humiliating shutout defeat to Andrei Fedorchenko. Now, Sazhnev was also beaten handily by the score of 3-1 in each and every one of his last 3 losses. Looks like a pretty bad spot for Sazhnev backers here. Give me Rod Pervelli winning this one outright for some moneyline cash. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines and personal leans out for Friday's International Setka Cup table tennis action. Happy Friday to you. The weekend is finally here. Hopefully you had a good week, but happy Friday. The weekend's here. Now, before we go ahead and move on with the program here today, I just want to quickly remind you once again to check me out on my website at patreon.com/Brock Page, where we are once again 2-0 in our last 2 underdog tier membership plays on that website. We're also 19-10 in our last 29 crowd pleaser teasers as well. Very good package for us right now. We do daily premium sports picks on that website beginning at just $1.99 through the end of the month. We also have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. Currently, we have well over 675 members signed up and active on that page. Not bad for no sports. Now, you might be wondering, why would all those folks sign up to receive Patreon picks where they can get them here for free on YouTube? Well, first of all, there's sports going off all over the world. The media just doesn't tell you that. And, there's certainly a great cause for concern, meaning, why would people pay for picks when they can get them here for free on YouTube from me? But the problem is, if you were to bet every single game that's on the board that I put out here on YouTube, side and total, you're almost guaranteeing yourself failure. And I know that sounds weird, but, hear me out. If you're going to bet every single game that's on the slate with your hard-earned money, it's certainly not a winning formula for success. And as a matter of fact, it's a recipe for disaster. The books are way too smart. They're way too sharp. They sure as heck have a lot more money than you and I do combined to be able to absorb that kind of action. And most important, guys, the math becomes aggressively against you the more and more games you play like that. So what I do on Patreon is I make life a lot easier for you. I break it down and focus in on just 3 to 4 premium selections per day. They're high percentage picks, games that I personally have action on. And I'll tell you this much, my current Patreon record is a whole lot better than it is here on YouTube, handicapping every single game that's on the board, side and total. And the good news is this: if you want to check out my current Patreon record, you can actually do that for free right now. It's located right on the homepage. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. I'll also include a link in the comment section below as well. Once again, that is patreon.com/Brock Page. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop back into some more free lines and personal leans right here on YouTube. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got Dmitry Smirnov squaring off against Alexander Kolbashenko. 2 p.m. start time. Kolbashenko's won 3 out of his last 4, all by the score of 3-1. Alex has beaten the likes of Kopech and Skripal during that span of victories. Meanwhile, Smirnov on the other side has dropped 2 out of his last 3, including a 3-1 defeat at the hands of Aliev during that stretch. Smirnov's also been victorious in just 3 out of his last 8. including losses to the likes of Kopech and Varlamov, in addition to those losses against Aliev and Skripal during that span. Looks like a pretty rough spot for Dimitri here, so I'm going to go ahead and lean Alexander Kolbashenko, getting the job done on the money line. All right, next matchup, it is going to be Levko Kuzio facing off against Andrei Fedorchenko in a 2:05 Eastern start time. Fedorchenko is coming off a solid 3-1 victory over Vitaly Sajnev. He's currently taking on a Kuzio opponent who's in the middle of an ice-cold 4-match losing streak, including a shutout loss to the hands of Moroz during that stretch. Now, Kuzio's also dropped 5 out of his last 6, failing to win 2 or more sets in 5 out of those 6 contests, getting taken care of handily as of late. Looks like a pretty bad spot for Levko backers. Give me Andrei Fedorchenko winning this one outright in convincing fashion. Next contest, it is going to be Igor Kopech taking on Igor Skripal. 2:30 p.m. start time. Skripal's lost 3 out of his last 4, including losses to Varlamov and Kolbashenko during those defeats. Skripal's also dropped 4 out of his last 7, including a 3-1 defeat at the hands of Igor Kopech during that span as well. And speaking of Kopech, he's really garnered himself 2 very dominant shutout victories over Kolbashenko and Varlamov within his last handful of matches. This should actually be a very competitive matchup here. I'm going to go ahead and give the slight advantage to Kopech in this spot. So give me Igor Kopech winning this one straight up in a very competitive, close matchup. All right, next contest. It is going to be Vitaly Kitrov squaring off against Vitaly Sajnev. 2:35 Eastern start. Sajnev is, let's try it again. Sajnev is currently on a 3-match losing streak and dropped 4 out of his last 5. Sajnev was blown out by Fedorchenko, Moroz, and Pervelli during that stretch. Now Kitrov on the other side has won his last 2 straight and 3 out of his last 5. Kitrov's beaten Fedorchenko, Popov, and Havrish during that span of victories. Kitrov coming off a very solid effort over Fedorchenko, winning that match 3-1. Looks like a pretty good spot for Kitrov here. Give me Vitaly Kitrov winning that one straight up in a close one. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Vlad Bailus facing off against Andrei Fedorchenko in a 3:05 p.m. battle. Fedorchenko is coming off a convincing 3-1 victory over Vitaly Sajnev in his last contest. Meanwhile, Bailus on the other side has dropped 3 out of his last 5 matches, including a blowout shutout defeat to Deripaska in his last outing. He also lost 3-1 to Popov and Havrish during that span of losses. It doesn't look like a terrific position for Bailus here. I'm going to go ahead and lean Andrei Fedorchenko, getting the job done for some moneyline cash. And with that, I'm going to slide my next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Rod Pervelli taking on Levko Kuzio in a 3:35 p.m. Eastern showdown. Levko's really struggled as of late, dropping 4 out of his last 5, including a shutout loss to Moroz during that stretch. Kuzio has also been victorious in just 2 out of his last 8, dropping matches to the likes of Havrish, Sajnev, and Pervelli. And speaking of Rod, he's won his last 2 straight while also posting a record of 5-1 straight up in his last 6. He's garnered himself marquee wins over the likes of Moroz, Sajnev, and Kuzio during that span. Looks like a pretty good angle here for Pervelli backers. Give me Rod Pervelli winning that one straight up on the money line. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some shout-outs. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage, where once again we are 2-0 in our last 2 underdog tier package plays. Shout out to Lucas Borgia, Dollar Bills, Buddy Sweeney, Victor Garcia Chagas, Zymer Tracks. Shout out to Going Crazy, Stephen Lewis, Bobby Schroeder, JDog327. Also got to give a shout out to Jesus Karakamunda, William Peterson, Brandon Saunders. Last but not least, Brandon Saunders. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. But most importantly, guys, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really, really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that, I must say to you, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website and that is patreon.com/BrockPage.